Hey guys, so today I will be painting a picture for my nephew. He is due at the end of July, and his nursery theme is going to be like woodland creatures and buffalo plaid and like wood grain and stuff like that. And so today we're gonna paint him a little picture. What I'm thinking is we're gonna do wood grain, and if you follow me on Instagram, you see that a couple of days ago I actually painted a wood grain canvas for my dining room, and I freaked out because it was so simple and I painted it myself and it looks so amazing and realistic. It blew my mind. So I'm just gonna really quickly go over just like a quick list of things that we are gonna need. Obviously, you need your canvas. This is a 6" by 8" canvas. Just want it to be small. I have a paint palette. It doesn't matter what paint palette you have. This is one of several that I have, but for what I'm going to do today, it seemed the best because it has these, and we're going to be doing wood grain and stuff like that. Obviously, I have a bunch of paints. I will show those to you in just a minute. I have a cup of water. I have a couple paper towels to use whenever I need to switch paint colors with my brushes, and then I have several paint brushes. So I have a few of these squared off brushes in various sizes. We'll use those as we see fit depending on what size we think we need while we're painting. And then I have one that is kind of at an angle. I have these three, which I don't foresee myself using this big one. I will probably just stick to, honestly, it'll probably mostly be this one, but I wanted them out just so I wouldn't have to go dig for them. This is the magic of the wood grain, and once we get into it, you will understand what I mean. So these brushes are like really hard. So look at this one, it's very flexible and like, you know, it goes like this. These don't really do that. Listen, they're just like stiff, bristly brushes. You need stiff, bristly brushes for the perfect wood grain. And I also, and then I have two detail brushes, tiny detail brushes because it's a tiny canvas. I'm not entirely sure which size I wanted to use yet, so I just, again, I'd rather just take everything out now so I don't have to dig for it later. And I also have blue painter's tape, and I have a ruler, and I have a mechanical pencil. Also, a razor blade. That's for the tape. Like I said, this is a 6" by 8" canvas. So what I want to do is, since it is 6 inches this way, I could do 6 1" planks, or I could do 3 2" planks. Let me actually see what that would look like. We'll either have planks that are this big or planks that are that big. Honestly, I'm thinking that we go with the 1". What do you guys think? Here's how you get started. Anyone who paints with acrylic paints knows that sometimes you can still see pencil marks through the paint. So we don't want to put a line all the way across. What we want to do is try our best to line this up and just put a little mark right there, and then go on the other side and do the same thing. And once we have done that, I'll show you. There's 1 inch, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the canvas that I did for my dining room was 24 inches by 30 inches. So it was literally huge. And see, and then you line your tape up like this on those lines, and that is how. So instead of putting an entire line across, you just put little dashes and then use those to line up your tape evenly. So anyways, back to my big canvas. So I had to like overlap my tape to fit it into my, I had 4-inch planks that I was doing on there, but we're gonna have to do this in a couple different stages. I did mine in 2 stages, but this is small, so we're gonna have to do it in more stages than that. Anyways, here we're gonna set this aside and bring this in for now so I can be mixing the paint and stuff while we're talking. But anyways, so mine was 24 by 30 inches, 24 by 30 inches. And so I had to use a ton of painter's tape, and it was a lot of work. But it was so fun. All right, so we're gonna go, I'm gonna try to go for a similar wood color as my painting was. And it's kind of like a grayish brown, so it honestly it's just kind of like worn. It kind of looks like old barnwood or old, you know, scrap wood or something. So the key to having like the dimension and all of the graininess and I mean just making it look realistic is to go with a kind of yellowed base. So before we do the grain and everything like that, I'm going to mix 3 colors right here in just a minute. But the base will be a little bit of bright yellow, a little bit of yellow flame, and a little bit of antique white. So I'm going to mix that in here. I'm going to fast forward through that. Okay, so there's not really any particular like 1 part this to 2 parts that to how many parts this. The great thing about doing any kind of wood is that, especially when you're going for a more like natural old wood kind of feel, the great thing is it doesn't have to be exactly the same color. So that's the best part. So if you run out of this and you have to remix it and it doesn't mix exactly the same, it's perfectly fine because it's wood. So now I'm gonna mix a light brown and a really, really dark, almost black brown. Okay, so for both of them, I'm gonna use melted chocolate, a tiny, tiny bit of barn red, and some pewter gray. In the third one that goes almost black, I'm going to add black. I didn't even bother cleaning my brush before switching from mixing the lighter one to the darker one because it has all literally the same colors in it. So these are my 3 colors. We'll call them 1, 2, 3. So whenever I'm painting, I'm not going to keep switching back and forth between the canvas and the palette. I'll just say 1, 2, 3. Here is our canvas. We are going to start with 1, obviously, because I said we need a yellow base. And we're literally just going to paint a very thin coat of yellow. Oops, that was a piece of schmutz off my mat. Oh my gosh, this is going to be so quick and so much easier than my huge one, which is not surprising. Okay, so now I am going to rinse my brush. Okay, if you don't get all the yellow out because of what we're about to do, but now we're going to go with color number 2, and we're literally just going to go right over that. But we kind of want to thin it out and kind of blend it with the yellow. That's why we're not waiting for it to dry. We just want to do this. And you see, I will bring the palette in one time right now just to show you. But you see how dark number 2 is compared to what it actually looks like on the canvas? That's because the yellow. All right, so now I have a little bit of number 3. Notice I also did not clean my brush. I have a little bit of number 3 on my brush. And just for starters, we are going to go right at the edge of the tape. Right at the edge of the tape, and you want to get a lot on there because as you are about to see, whenever I go like this, it's going to take a little bit off. All right, so I'm actually going to come back in with a little bit of number 2 just because I should probably use a smaller brush. See, this is what I mean. All right, anyway, back to this. So I'm going to actually put a little bit extra number 3 on there because this brush is so big compared to this spot. I think whenever I do number 3 from now on this canvas, I am going to I'm going to use a smaller brush because that's really dark, but that's fine. Again, it's wood. So here's the magic. Okay, you're going to take your really stiff bristled brush and you are going to literally just slide it across. Oh, this one's a lot harder to work with. Okay. And then you slide it across again. Oh my goodness. Okay. And there you have it. I'm going to go simple on the first one, but when I do the next one I'm about to do, I'm going to put a knot in it. So that one looks good. We're going to try to go a little bit lighter on this one because I'm going to use a smaller brush when I do the number 3. I'm just going to fast forward through number 1 and number 2. So I'm bringing in the tiny brush. And here we go with number 3. And I feel like this is way more proportionate for what I need it to do, and it's not going to make the whole thing super dark like it did on the first one. See, again, even though I did mine was freaking huge, and I used the biggest brushes I had because my planks were 4 inches wide. These planks are not 4 inches wide, they are 1 inch wide. So you got to have a little bit more finesse with them to not get everything everywhere. See, much better. You want a little bit of dark, that's fine, but not all of it. But I am going to come back in with a little bit of number 2 just to kind of blend it. And that looks much better. So now I'm going to show you how to do a knot. We know that I'm going to start in the middle because I want the knot on this one to be in the middle. I'm going to go in. Oh my gosh. And then I'm going to spin my brush around. And then I'm going to keep going. And then whenever I get here, I'm going to go around. And then the same thing here. Yeah, this brush is not quite, you know what I'm going to do? Hold on, before we continue, I'm just going to cut a little bit off of my brush. I think that's my issue. So let's see it now. Okay, and then we're going to go and make sure you curve around your knot and then back like that. Oh yeah, see, that looks so good. So now we are going to take the tape off and look at our very first wood planks. I'm going to try to reuse this tape just because this is such a small little canvas and I probably can. So there are our first wood planks. There's a knot in this one. It looks so good. And then that one's a little bit darker, but not too bad. Okay, so I want to address this yellow because it bled under the tape, and that is perfectly fine. You will see once we get to this plank how I counteract that. So now I think the next thing that I'm gonna do, let's see. I can't tape over this or over that yet. Maybe if I cut the tape. Okay, here comes the here comes this. So if I cut this like so. Okay, and throw this away. Obviously, we're going to use this side as our plank line because it's still straight because I haven't cut it. Whoops, sorry. All right, so we can probably do this one, this center one over here. If I, again, I'm just using those lines that I drew earlier, and I'm aligning my tape with those lines. And then I'm going to put a piece right here, and I'm going to try to cut that a little bit thinner than this one so that it doesn't touch that. So now we're going to work on this plank. And then I think after that plank, we're going to have to let the 3 planks dry for a little bit, and then we'll come back. So I'm going to do this plank without any commentary. I'm just going to fast forward through it, and then I'm going to let it dry. And when I come back, I'm going to fast forward through the other planks as well. And then I will comment on whenever we start the next part, which is the lettering. So enjoy! Cutting in right here, I know I said I wasn't going to commentate, but whenever you're doing a plank that's in the middle, you have to make sure to do the number 3 on both tape seams. We are back. It's been about 20 minutes. You can see there's no shine on the paint anymore, so I think it's fine. I'm going to go ahead and pre-cut my tape this time, just because everything is so small now. Out of each thing, that's fine with me. So I am going to do this one first, this second one, for two reasons. One, because I trust that top one more than I trust the center one for right now. And two, so that I can show you why the yellow doesn't matter on the first planks. Like, once you have to tape over a plank and do it again, then you have to be a little more careful, but we're going to show you right now. So we're going to ignore the line that we drew, and we're going to do this. We're going to go a little bit onto our plank, just a little bit, not a ton. And actually, because we're going a little bit onto that, I'm going to go a little bit higher onto these little marks, because we are going to be overlapping our planks a little bit once we get to the blending portion of blending the two planks together, which is what we're doing right now with this top one. Okay, so let me uncover my palette. I covered it up while I was waiting so that the paint didn't dry. And the reason I mixed so much paint before is because I wanted this paint to last the whole canvas without me having to mix new paint. So, okay, basically the key is this one is fine. Don't have to worry about this seam, but this seam, we want to try our very best to not get any yellow underneath that tape. So whenever we do the yellow, we can do the bottom and the sides and the center any way we want. But whenever we do the yellow, we're going to try our best to kind of, when we paint it on, we're going to try to just like touch where that yellow already is. And then, because you know we're going to come in with number 3 on the seams of this tape, and our number 2 is going to go over the whole thing. So our plan of attack is to not get any yellow underneath that tape, and if you get anything underneath that tape, hopefully it's the dark or the number 2. I think that looks really good. So we're going to peel the tape off, and then we're going to go down to this one. All right, I need to cut new tape. So again, we're going to leave a tiny, tiny bit of that open. Not a ton, just enough to like cover up that yellow and kind of blend the pieces. Okay, and then same thing here. I want to go a little bit higher. I don't quite want that one. Okay. And there we go. Alright, so as you can see, this is a little harder to do because we have to mind both edges. If you do get a little bit close to the edge, start on the tape and go up and slide the paint away. So then it's not actually going under the tape, it's going away from the tape, and that's good. So on this one, I'm actually trying to make sure that some of this number 3 gets a little bit under the tape. So I'm painting it at an angle, like with my brush at an angle, so that if anything seeps under, it's number 3. Oh, crap. Just be careful not to do that. Always be aware of how far your tape goes. Long. Alright, we're also not going to put any knots in this one because I think there's a knot in the one below it. But what I am going to do is I'm kind of like put a wave up there. So we are on our last plank, and for this one we need 2 really thin pieces of tape. Alright, so here we are, a little more than halfway through this whole painting. Let me move this light a little bit. And we have wood planks. So I am going to go ahead and do the edges, and then we're going to wait for the whole thing to dry, And then when the whole thing dries, that is when we will come back and do the knocks. So I'm just going to show you and talk you through one side. And then I'm going to fast forward the other 3 sides. And then we're going to wait, and whenever this video starts up again, we'll be doing the knocks. So I'm going to go with the number 3 because you always want just the darkest part on your edges. I'm going to start here, and I'm just going to go down a little, just like that. Then I'm going to skip a plank, and I'm going to do the same thing right there. And then I'm going to skip another plank, and then do this one. Okay? So, by skipping a plank, it'll be a different consistency, like, you know, and you dip your brush every time. So sometimes you have a little bit more, sometimes you have not quite as much, and plus you're more likely to have like a tiny, like the tiniest little gap ever between them. And whenever it dries, it will look like there are separate board pieces next to it. Also, if you really want extra oomph between the board pieces to make it look more like individual things, you can always dip into the number 3 and then dip like the very tip of your brush into the number 2 and then just have like a little bit of difference. But I find if you do every other and then go back and do the other ones, you have like natural little lines separating. Once it's all finished, here, let me put this light back over and let me see if I can get a good shot of it. So, see? And it's all the same color. So, obviously on the bottom and the top you don't have to do that because it's literally just the bottom edge of a plank or the top edge of a plank. But on the bottom, if you see any yellow, try to like get up onto there a little bit just to cover it up, just so there's no yellow. And as you can see, it still looks fine because it just kind of blends in with the edge. Alright, I'm going to fast forward through the rest of this.